Hello everyone, welcome to my Java tutorial. And in this tutorial, we are going to start off with our banking application. Now, before I start, I'll just give you an overview of what our application will actually do. Okay, so this application will first display a welcome message to the user with his or her name. Then it will display 5 options to the user. That is check balance, deposit, withdraw, check previous transaction and exit. Okay. After that, the user will be allowed to make a choice, and as the user selects the options, the corresponding functionality will be executed. Okay, so this is the overall functionality of the application. Now, yes, and all these operations which I talked about, these operations are going to happen on some bank account, right? So that is the reason why I've created a class bank account. So all the operations which I talked about, those will be happening on some bank account. Now, let's start off. See, as you can see, I have created a bank account class which is having 4 variables. Now I'll just explain what they are actually. So this is the balance, which is the money which you have in your account. Then previous transaction, which indicates whether the last amount which is withdrawn or deposited. Then the customer's name and the customer's ID. Now let's start off with the first method, which is deposit. Now this method deposit takes one integer variable as parameter, which is the amount, because we are going to deposit some amount, right? So it will take that amount as parameter. Now we don't want to unnecessarily perform the operations if the value which is entered is 0. Okay, so that is why I'm making a check over here. If amount is not equal to 0, then only do this, right? So what it will do is balance is equal to balance plus amount. That is, it is going to increment the balance with this amount, right? Yeah, and then in the previous transaction I'll load the amount because I am interested in knowing what amount is deposited or withdrawn. That is why I'm just assigning this value to this variable. Okay, now next method is the withdraw method. Now again, we have to know how much amount has to be withdrawn, so that is the reason why this method also takes one integer parameter. Now again, the same thing, we don't want to withdraw 0 from the balance because it doesn't make any sense. So that is why I'm making a check over here if amount not equal to 0. And then what it will do is balance is equal to balance minus amount. So it will deduct the amount from our balance. And in the previous transaction, I'll mention minus amount. Now why this minus? Because we are withdrawing an amount from here, right? So to indicate withdraw, I have kept a minus symbol over here. Okay, yes. So 2 methods are done. Now next is get previous transaction. This method will return us a message which will either tell deposited some amount or withdrawn some amount, right? So for doing that, I'll just make a check over here. If it is greater than 0, which means the amount is deposited, right? Because here, as you can see, positive amount means deposited. If it is greater than 0, that is if the amount is, if the previous transaction is positive, then deposited and the value, right? So if I deposit 1000, then it will display deposited 1000, right? Then second condition is if it is negative, that means if I have withdrawn some amount. As you can see here, the negative operator. Yeah. Now in that case, what will happen? Withdrawn. Yes, now here, if I would have directly written the previous transaction variable, then it would print something like withdrawn minus 1000, which doesn't look good, right? That is why I've used this method absolute. And what this will do is it will just take any value and give us the positive of it, right? If we give minus, then it will give plus. Okay, if we give it a negative value, then it will give us a positive value of it, right? So that is the function of this absolute method. It will give us the positive value. So in this case, what will be displayed is withdrawn 1000 and not withdrawn minus 1000, right? Now, else if any of these conditions don't match, then no transaction occurred, right? Yes, so that is the get previous transaction method. Now, the next method is show menu. So this method is going to show or display the menu in front of the user. And that is quite a long procedure. So we'll see that in the next tutorial. So thank you for now, and we'll continue this in the next tutorial. See you guys.